So I've been working into the blockchain spectrum for the past over 3 years. My background is in computer science, but also in operations. I was working in the music industry before as well. So I kind of like always been hands-on into a lot of things. Let's say like what is interesting about blockchain and everything that we are experiencing right now is that I think a lot of people makes things much more complicated of what they are. I remember, as soon as I approached the space, everybody was speaking in like this crazy jargon. Everything was like, DeFi seems like it was this magical and mysterious component of the world, and nobody was able to like break it down or to approach it into a different way. So I think we all get a bit lost many times when we approach crypto. I think it is also because we developers have the bad habits to call things in a different way, because it's how people developing stuff think it in their mind, but maybe it's not how the user perceives it. And we're gonna see that, especially like with crypto wallets and how things works. But just to make another example, if you think about, we always have the idea of connecting a wallet, right? For a user experience, it's much more complicated to say, hey, why don't you just log in with your Web3 account? That is a type of language that everybody will understand. But because it was like a different paradigm or a different parameters, things started to get a bit more complicated. So I have a few slides that probably I'm not gonna follow much, but give me 1 second. I'll share my screen and then we'll take it from there. Perfect. I think you can all see my screen. I'm sharing actually the whole screen, not just the application, so we can switch between tabs in case when you're gonna see some different examples. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to interrupt and stop me. Let's keep this conversational and informal as much as we can. I'm gonna keep an eye on the chat as well. So feel free to type. So I wanted to discuss first about crypto wallet, especially because, as Inga said, we have a lot of different people in our cohort, or in general, people that approach technology in a very different way. People who may have had some experience already or not into minting or interacting with blockchains or with what we call like decentralized applications. Maybe just to give a bit of context, when I was doing the mentioning, the fact of connecting with your wallet or login with your Web3 account, this is something that is mainly brought to us with the launch of Ethereum in 2013 and the usage of smart contracts. Because like you can think about smart contracts as programs on the network, on the blockchain, and then you have a website and that interact with this application. That's why they're called decentralized application, the smart contract themselves. So the crypto wallets in general are the most basic entity that exist. Now there are two types of wallet. One is called custodial wallet, and one is called non-custodial wallet. In crypto and blockchain, we always refers to a crypto wallet to a non-custodial wallet. Custodial are things that came afterwards thanks to like centralized exchange. What is the difference? So the custodial one, it's basically if you think about maybe if you had the opportunity to purchase any crypto tokens to initialize your Web3 journey, you created an account on Coinbase or Kraken, Binance, one of these centralized exchange. You probably deposited some fiat currencies, some USD, Euro, or whichever currency you are from, and then probably converted it and purchased some cryptocurrencies. And then from there, you transferred it out somewhere else, maybe your MetaMask account. Why is it called custodial wallet? Is it called custodial because they take care of the custody of your keys or of your ability to log in and log out of this account. The difference here is that you don't have the key of your actually, let's say, like bank account, because Coinbase and Kraken has it. So if you log into Coinbase with your email and password, and one day Coinbase will decide, hey, I'm sorry, you are locked out of your account, you're not going to be able to transfer your money, right? So it's much more similar to a service that a bank does, or like what we call TradFi, traditional finance does. You give to a trusted entity, a trusted third party, your valuables, which is can be like monetary values or like objects, and you say, okay, I entrust you to take care of it, to have custody of my belongings. And then the problem is that every time you need to do an action, you need to go to this third party and say, hey, can I withdraw some money from my bank account? Or can I open the safe and get, I don't know, my grandfather chain or whatever, and so then you got these, let's say, like, it's not different from the reality, but in crypto and blockchain, the real revolution and what was different, thanks to the creation of Bitcoin, was to basically being able to have a peer-to-peer communication with like electronic cash without a third party. So you are the one who actually owns or keep custody of your own belongings. And you are the only one who can touch and decide what to do, with your belongings, which is something, that we can make, like the most similarity between Bitcoin and what cryptocurrencies are supposed to enable, and is more to cash, because if you have cash, and you have it in the forms of like banknotes or coins, you have it. It's not that a bank can come to you and say, hey, I'm going to take your money and that are under your mattress, It's not possible because they need to physically take it from you. With the advent of digital money or digitalization of like currencies and bank system, then monies are mainly a number, and who decide what to do with those numbers, sometimes it's not us. Okay, so every time we're going to talk about wallets, we're talking about non-custodial wallets, which are like MetaMask, Kukai for Tezos, Ledger, if you have ever heard about other wallets, etc. So what is it, a wallet exactly? The wallet is an application that lets you interact with your crypto account. What does it mean? So every time you open MetaMask, you have, the MetaMask is the software or the application that lets you use your crypto account. If you can think of your crypto account more like a bank, so is like a bank account, and to interact with this bank account, you need, certain things, because, like people are not used, to have to write code. You want to have like a nice user interface, right? You want to have that I can interact with it. And it lets you do like basically very basic things. Your wallet lets you only, read your balance, send transactions, and connect. This is the only thing that a non-custodial wallet does. How a wallet can operate? Basically, to operate a wallet, it has to store what we call private keys. And the private keys is the master key to your own account. If somebody has your master, is going to be able to do everything wants with your account. You can think of an account similarly to like a mailbox, and maybe like, yeah. So you can think about your crypto account similarly to a mailbox, because it's made of two main components, which is a public key and a private key. I don't know if I'm going too technical for people, or if you are not, if you have any questions at any time, you're not able to follow me, send a message, no worries, in the chat. But think about the mailbox as your address is your public key. And into your mailbox, you have a key that only you can use to open and get your letters from the mailbox. This is exactly how crypto accounts, Bitcoin accounts, Ethereum accounts works. So a crypto account is an entity that can send transaction and there's a balance. How I can use my crypto account? I use a wallet, right, to interact. And it's important, to understand how things works. Like before there was this one that you can see here is what is called like a paper wallet, right? So you have thanks to like certain types of algorithms, you have the creation of like a couple of keys, which is a public key that, as you say, is your address, something that you can share, and a secret key that only you need to have, right? And these keys are very difficult, like alphanumeric strings that people, have very difficult to understand. So what happened at some point, because people, how can I just remember the string of numbers? It's like very difficult, and like even if I have to pass it to somebody else, when people started to use QR code, etc., etc. Then into the Bitcoin community, they started saying, hey, why don't we just use mnemonic phrases? So we create an alphabet of English words, which then can, thanks to an algorithm, convert and become a string, right? So when you create an account, you have normally like MetaMask or anything that provides seed phrase. Is the seed phrase your private key? Almost. You can consider as a seed phrase at something which is more like a master key, right? So actually, let me just, maybe I can get an image for the BAP32. Yeah, perfect, something like that. So at some point, they said, why remember one 10 times key, 20 keys? Let's say that I have different addresses purposes. Maybe I have my saving account, my whatever account, right? Each account that I create, each wallet, which is a couple of public and private key, instead of having, a unique set of information, we can then, thanks to this other update that was called like BAB32, yeah, let me just see if I can zoom in a bit more. Can you see it better? No problem. So then what's happened is like, thanks to one only master seed, one only big, let's say like private key, which we call seed phrase, we can generate a lot of different accounts. And each account is gonna have a couple of, is gonna be composed by a public key and a. So I'm gonna make you like an example, and so we're gonna just try to understand how these things actually work and what they are. So maybe my screen is a bit small, but what I'm doing now is basically what you are never supposed to do, like sharing your seed phrase, private key, etc., etc. But in general, when you have a crypto account, I'm using, like a girly account. This one that you have here is your public address. Your public address, and I'm gonna see if I can zoom it out a bit in here. All right, now I think you should be able to see it a bit better. Is this number here? This is your public key. And then you can just go into your account and check your details, and it says shows your private key. That's great. Just 1 second. All right. So now this one is what is called the private key, and it goes together with my unique public key. So these two together, these two long strings of numbers, they're gonna form one account, right? So the public key is what you give to anybody that, is your, as we said, your mail address, your mailbox address. You want somebody to send anything, perfect, send it to. Your private key is what opens your mailbox, opens your account, and you don't want to give it to anybody else. Why? Because if somebody has access to your private key, is gonna have full control of your account. Is gonna be able to send transfers, sign transactions, etc., etc. So this account that I've created it with, and it was prompted with this seed phrase, which set of 12 words, right? We got 12 words, like very common to like write down. It's like a mnemonic phrase. You use like word like school, effort, dignities. It's something that is easy to remember. You can write it down, put it safe somewhere, and it's gonna be the most important master key to recover all your accounts. When I say all your accounts, is that when you created this seed phrase, you actually created millions of accounts already that are just not being used right now. Now, if you see that in my MetaMask, I can just do add account, and this is going to be called account 2. Okay, this is a new account, and if I check his public address, you can see that it's different from the previous public key because it's a different Ethereum account. And if I go and check my private key, you can see that is different from the private key of before, right? Why is that? Because this key only opens that specific account. But this seed phrase gives you access to all these accounts. So to account 1, to account 2. And now I'm going to show you how you can actually do that, and you're going to notice the difference. So for example, right now we've got this account which has 0.2 girly if, and this other account is at 0 if. So now what I'm gonna do, I have another MetaMask setup which is set up with a different seed phrase, actually with a different account, which is this account, right? And I'm gonna just to prove it is a different account, I'm gonna just post it here. Vision is what we call the orange guest. Vision is a different seed phrase, and this one is the public account. And you see the public key is different from all the others, right? Perfect. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually, let's say that because I've shown you my private key here, I've exposed my private key. So now you got to know my private key, right? Sorry, private key 1. So if I copy this private key and I give it to someone else who has now access, what we can do, we can just import an account, which is here. So, oh, sorry. And if I go and check this account in the same network, you're gonna see that I have this 02 girly if. So now I have actually full access with this account only because my private key was leaked, because my private key was exposed to someone. So now anybody can do whatever they want with my private key. So if you're gonna just put them one next to the other one, right? You see that these one are two different accounts for the with a different seed phrase, but because I imported the account, you see that it says here imported. Now I have the possibility to our orange person has the same ability of the original owner, which to interact with this account. So now if I want, I can just I don't know, drain the account, right? And send all the belongings to myself. But would I be able to access account number 2 of the green person? Not really, because only my private key of the account is exposed. So right now, while Vision is sending, what I can do, I can just try to create an account, add another account. If I add another account, which is account number 3 now, you see that it is a different address than the account number 2 in here. And I have no way to go to this account number 2 because my private key was not exposed, right? But what is gonna happen if my seed phrase is exposed? So if my seed phrase is exposed, what actually I can do, I can just try to log out from this account, which is probably like this. Perfect. So right now, let's say that my seed phrase was, do it here, we do a stupid password. There we go, and we restore. So right now, you see that I have access to the same account that I've drained already, right? Which is account number 1. And now if I add account 2, is the same account number 2 that is here, 14, using 0D14 and finishing with E5 CF, E5 CF. So my seed phrase is my master key that gives me access to all the accounts, right? So if one of these, which is called account wallet, is a couple, is a pair of private key and public key, and this one is another account, this one is another account, this one is what we call the seed phrase, the master. And if I have my seed phrase exposed, people can access all my accounts. If people access only my private key, they can access only this wallet account, right? So as you can see, it's quite, for people, if you get exposed, right, to get access to your belongings. And this is something that is quite scary, right? Because if people doesn't know how it works, and they say, they contact you and they say, oh, you have this problem. Oh, no worries, just give me your phrase and I'm gonna sort this problem for you, and then in 1 second drain all your wallets because you gave them the only thing that you were not supposed to give away, right? So because a lot of people are like don't understand these, or because I think there is things are not so clear, there is a lot of people that. So it's very important that when we use decentralized application, or when we use application where we have the responsibility to look after our own keys, it's important that we understand how to use it and how to prevent these, how we can safeguard ourselves, right? So maybe, before, we go on in other security measures, something that I normally is, where are your coins or NFTs stored? So we discussed about, like wallets, crypto wallets, accounts, etc. So does anybody know where your coins or NFT are stored? Does anybody have an idea? You can type in the chat, or you can just say nothing and we can take care of it. On the physical block? Yeah, that's a very good answer. Let's say on the blockchain, which is the most important thing. So your coins or your NFT are stored on the blockchain. They're not in your wallet. And your NFT and your coins have a specific parameter who says who is the owner of these NFT and coins. And the owner is your address. You can think of NFT transfers or coins transfer to something that actually is not moving at all. The only thing that change is in the blockchain records, they just change who is the owner of this NFT. If you think about the NFT like a big table, where, I don't know, this NFT, it has an ID, it has a title, etc., etc. One of these information, one of these data on the blockchain about this NFT is who is the owner, who is the address owner of this NFT. So your NFT are in the blockchain. If you lose your wallet, or if you know, don't have access to your wallet, it's not that your NFTs are lost. It's just that you don't have access to them, which is a bit different, right? Can I have access with multiple wallets to the same account? Yes, of course. We just did it, right? So we just had this orange person. Sorry, this one is something else. And this other green person who are like sharing, you know, with two different wallets, accessing the same crypto account, right? So what can we do to ensure, you know, first of all, that we always have access, and then that we don't lose access to our belongings? Because at the beginning, we said that we were going to use something that is non-custodial. Non-custodial is something that is also like can be a bit complex, because it's not that you don't have custody. It's just that the custody is rely on yourself now. There is not going to be anybody to call, anybody that you can say, hey, you know, like I don't have a account, can you help me out? They don't know. Nobody can help you out, right? Which is something that can be scary, but it's something that is beautiful, you know, it's something that is great. It's something that, you know, we got back something that is taken from us, right? If you think about authoritarian regimes that, you know, they have the ability to maybe like, I don't know, take what is in your bank account because, I don't know, there is war, or because they have any kind of excuse, you know. People can take your belongings without your consent, and it's something that has been happening over and over, especially since the last, you know, digital financial revolution. So we've seen it, you know, even if I don't know, I remember there was this episode of like some truck drivers protesting in Canada, you know, but it's not like as per se, like, you know, authoritarian regime, or, you know, like famous for being, you know, not, you know, a dictatorship or anything, right? And what the Canadian government did to stop the protest was to freeze all the bank accounts and all the assets of the protesters, but also of their family, friends, and relatives. So, you know, let's say like straight away, you know, all these protesters, they were not able to go buy food, pay for their bills, or whatever, right? Of money that were their own, you know, they didn't have access, you know. But if we are the one who has custody of our own funds, because we have our own private keys, where we can only us, we can decide what to do with our account, then this is not going to be possible. Nobody can seize my account. Nobody can take access of my account. Nobody can, you know, move my cryptocurrencies unless I give them the permission to do so, or unless they have my private key. So how can we make sure that our private keys are safe, right? So what we've been seeing mostly, like, and what you've probably been using mostly, like MetaMask, or if you use Tezos ecosystem, you already had like used Kuka, your Temple wallet, yada yada, depending on which blockchain used. These one are what is called like hot wallets, because they are connected to the internet. They allow, you know, like instant transfers, you know, like we've just seen it. I've just opened these, and just in a second, you know, like it didn't ask me much, right, to transfer things. But what is the problem of this hot wallet is that how this application is able to do anything with my how was I able to send these girly ETH out of my wallet? Is because the private key necessary to sign the transaction, say, yes, I have the private key, so I can sign the transaction. I can give you the permission to transfer these girly ETH out of my account. because this private key is stored into MetaMask. So if it's stored into MetaMask, it is stored somewhere in your computer. We just actually like retrieved, and every time you try to retrieve a private key, you normally like just say, hey, don't do that, right? Just don't. Just never disclose this key. Anyway, your private key can stay any. It's very easy to do it, right? I mean, it's not so easy, but because you need to know your password, etc. But if something is exposed to the internet, exposed in your computer, there is the possibility to have your private key compromised. Let's say that I have access to your computer and I can copy some files from your computer, which are the MetaMask file. Time in my I can take a lot of time and just crack your password, and then I can probably steal all your funds because I can access your MetaMask file, right? But because I have access to your private key, right? So the best way to keep our private keys secured is to use what is called cold wallet. Cold wallets are something that you may have seen. There is like Ledger. It's like they looks like some small hardware devices, some more USB. There is some other companies as well that does. And how are these wallets different from the hot wallet? Is they're always offline, right? And they never have their private key exposed. So the way it works, how can a hardware wallet or a cold store ensure, that can communicate with a computer, but it doesn't expose the private key? Basically, exactly as MetaMask holds your private key, you're going to put your private key into this device. And then this device is going to communicate with the blockchain without, communicating the private key from your computer. So basically, your private key is going to be always secured and hidden from your computer, from internet, from anybody, because only into this device you have the private key. And this, allows for people, to not be able to steal. But of course, you need to have another device. You need every time, you need to do it. Insert your password into your hardware wallet. Complicated, and it takes much more time, right? Does using a cold wallet? Oh yeah. What happens if the cold wallet is broken or lost? Very good. Let's focus on this first. So if your cold wallet is broken or lost, what is it that is going to be the only thing that give you access to your account? This, your seed phrase. So when you set up a wallet, any wallet, when you create an account, it gives you a seed phrase or a private key at least, right? This seed phrase is what you have to store securely and in probably more copies, right? And keep safe. Because what's going to happen now if my computer is I'm not going to be able to access MetaMask anymore, right? So I will lose access to my even my MetaMask account, not only my hardware wallet. If you lose your hardware wallet, then it's pretty much the same, like your computer, So what you can do, you can just take another, purchase another hardware wallet and insert into this wallet the same seed exactly as I was inserting this seed phrase into the meta account. So I could use the same accounts on many devices because Vision is just the key for using the account, not the account itself. The account is in the blockchain, right? I see you. I see General Studio is typing, so I'm gonna just to see, give him a bit of time to type. And if I have a cold wallet but lose my seed phrase, am I able to get my seed phrase through the cold wallet? Yes. Yes, you can. So similarly, to how you can just recover your seed phrase from MetaMask account. I show it here just a visual entity, right? So what you do like you go to settings, if I think it's called recovery phrase. Yeah, reveal recovery phrase is this button here. And then, like, for example, yeah, you see like if you lose your secret recovery phrase, they cannot, right? They're testing us. If anyone, even a supported agent, asks you for your recovery phrase, you are being scammed, right? Oh yeah, good. So then you enter the password, which I don't remember which one it was. Just 1 second. Yeah, password was this one. And then you click it. And then now I can see. You see school, effort, dignity, school, effort, dignity, seat, veteran, grade. So now I was able to recover my secret recovery phase. So what are like good practices to make sure that we don't lose access to our own belongings, to our own wallet, and also that other people doesn't have access to our own as well. So the first thing is always to have secure copies of secret recovery phase, right? So your seed phrase or secret recovery phrase, normally when you create the MetaMask, they prompt you, okay, just copy Vision on a piece of paper, Why on a piece of paper? Because if you're gonna put it into, I don't know, a Google Note or your Apple Note or whatever, right? It's gonna be anyway exposed to the internet. So if somebody has access to your mail account, they go to your notes, they're gonna see your seed phrase, right? So you want to make it difficult for people to find your seed phrase. So you want to write it down and put it into somewhere safe, extremely safe, and extremely hidden. And you want to have multiple copies, and maybe multiple copies in different locations, because in case you lose one copy, you always have another copy, right? I see, wait. I don't get the reason for other wallets unless yeah. So I'll make an example. And we can understand a bit more how is important, to have to use hardware wallet and why is important to use hardware wallet. So right now, there could be a way that if someone has can have access to your wallet, but if someone have access to your hardware, is not so easy, to access your seed phrase. And also, normally, to have access to your computer, people can have access to the internet. But if people cannot have access to the internet to your hardware, right? So hardware wallets is the best way to keep things hidden and separated from and usually the yeah, okay, perfect. So the only problem is that what's happened when you have to interact with your wallet. If you have to interact with your wallet, how can you use those? Because wages is just saying exactly what I meant. I don't need for a dedicated USB device to save only 12 words. It's not only saving the words, but it's allow you to interact with the blockchain without exposing your key. So let's say right now, what I could do, I could just, like in here, you can see like add hardware wallet, right? So what I can do, I can just connect an hardware wallet and I can use that account, in total safety and probably transfer cryptocurrencies from one account to another, If I have the 12 words on a piece of paper, I cannot do that because I need to put the 12 words into a specific wallet first and then interact with the blockchain to transfer funds or to mint an NFT or whatever, right? So what the hardware wallet is allow me to do is allow me to interact with the blockchain in a more secure manner, keeping my private key less exposed. Did it answer a bit more your question, Wage? More or less. I save mine in synchro, so I'm a bit paranoid. No. That's good. I mean, I think we need to consider the difference between. Sorry. So the first thing is how to keep your seed phrase stored for any eventuality, in case you lose it. Another option, another things to consider is how we need to keep it safe while we use the account, right? So using another wallet allow me to use the account, but saving it in a very secure manner on paper, it is what you have to do. I'll give you an example of like adding layer of securities, and then we can you can tell me what you think, and I'm gonna answer also your question, Celine, which is, are encrypting our seed phrase documents or choice? So a good way to approach your security and setup is to have different levels of security and interactions, right? So you want probably to have a MetaMask wallet, a hot wallet, which is something where you don't keep your valuables inside, but you have just minimal amount of cryptocurrencies in these, and you just use it into the everyday transaction, into interacting with applications, minting NFTs, signing things, doing operations, etc., etc. And then you want to have maybe a hardware wallet. With hardware wallet, you want to have it with where you keep your funds, your, let's say, saving account or your current account where, I don't know, you get paid or whatever, right? Where you keep your belongings, where you keep your NFT collection, right? But not to sell it. The most important thing that you want on a cold is that a cold wallet, you don't want it to interact with application. You want it to interact with your hot wallet. So for example, if I want to sell an NFT, I'm not going to put my hardware wallet and then go to OpenSea and sell the NFT that is in my in the account which is in the hardware wallet. The correct practice should be I use my hardware wallet to transfer from that Ethereum account other account which is in the hot wallet, and then from the hot wallet I can sell it in OpenSea. So then I don't expose, all the other NFTs. I don't use, something that is using only to store value to interact with things. Now you say, how does it concern my security or crypto? So both these seed phrase are very important, and you want to keep them safe in case something happened to your hardware, not to use your account or to interact, but for recovery purposes. So what you do for recovery purposes, you write it down into a piece of paper, right? And the best thing will be to write it down into paper in a let's say like clear way. For example, you could write it down so you can, I think, like you can say like, I don't know, like cryptographic, go online. There must be some, or decipher. Yeah, something like that, there is, like a lot of like type of like cryptographic algorithm, and you just a text, and then you just encode it. For example, let's say that we put let me zoom a bit. It's just a random website that I've used, but I've opened now. But let's say that I'm gonna take this one, and I'm gonna take I'm gonna take my seed phrase. I'm gonna put it into like a specific coder, and I'm gonna paste it, and I don't know, there is this one, and I'm gonna encrypt, right? And if I encrypt it, it gives me this result, right? So then if I take this result, and then I can convert it back, right? I can decrypt it. So what you can do instead of, which I'm trying live with you right now, right? Yeah, you see, full effort, exactly the same, right? So you can encrypt and decrypt things, right? So if you have on a piece of paper this information instead of the plain information, then, like it's going to be much safer. And then if you even want to improve your security, what you do, you split your seed phrase. For example, you have one piece of paper with half and one piece of paper with the other half, and you put them in different places, different locations, right? So it's going to be much more difficult for people to get. What is important is that you know how to, because it may be that you forgot which algorithm you use to decrypt it and decipher it, etc., etc. So it's okay to be like a bit like as Wage was saying, paranoid. It's important, right? You want to keep your things safe, but also like you want to understand that this is for recovery purposes, right? So you need to be able to recover it easily, and this depends of like what is the amount of funds that you have inside, like unless you have like extremely large amount, like it's not that people are gonna like, come to your house and with guns, etc. There is like they don't go to millionaires or billionaires to do that. So it's you are at a low risk, right? There are more, we incur into other risks, right? You know, not like people, like coming into our house, etc. Like unless it comes by chance, yeah, but people can be targeted, etc., which is a bit more different. So yeah, we need to separate, yeah, like as you say, not wanting to be a pain. It's a double-edged sword. Password and keys are so long that you will inevitably have to copy or save them somewhere. Yeah, no, but that's fine, like it happens also with normally, it's fine, like I think it's about having a good security instead of and have a good method, right? For example, using passwords encrypted, like tools, that they just save your password. There is like, like LastPass, one password, or this kind of tools, You don't want to save your seed phrasing there, but maybe you want to, like, I don't know, save the algorithm where you encrypted your seed phrase as well, but like we are talking about very high level of security that most of you and myself included don't need, to get so deep in security, right? But what we need is to understand how things works and how, making sure that we have our seed phrase saved in multiple copies, making sure that we don't give our private keys to anybody, we don't give our seed phrase to anybody, and then I'm going to touch a bit more into like clicking into links, etc., etc. And then, I'm gonna just go back to Celine, which says maybe later the credibility of the ledger called wallet request. For example, in this case, in order for the user's seed to be retrieved, even if it's lost, he send it to a third party, split it in 3 encrypted fragments, if not mistaken. What is your opinion on this manner? And do you think there is an alternative hardware wallet that would recommend instead of ledger? Is using multiple non-custodial accounts a safer method? So the only thing more secure than hardware wallet, whatever it is, Ledger, Trezor, security, is a multi-signature wallet. The way a multi-signature wallet works is that basically you have to, let me see if we can do one very quick. Sorry. The way a wallet works is that it's basically like create a contract itself that can hold funds, and the only way to interact with it, you need to have multiple other wallets that. So, for example, I don't know if we can. Maybe like it's gonna take a bit too much time to set it up. But in short, like a multi-signature wallet, if I want to transfer, as I did before, some girly if, what it can do instead, I need to ask 3 other people to sign, or 3 other accounts. And all the accounts can be yours account, right? But then you need to have 3 accounts compromised instead of only one. So this is the most secure thing. So when I was saying, like the fragments, it's not about your how to retrieve your silver, but it's something that you do internally, not that you do with your thanks to Ledger, right? It's something that you want to do when you write your seed phrase on a piece of paper, not something that you want to do when you have like a ledger. Like what you need when you need to set up a ledger is just these 12 words. How do you say these 12 words is important, but is as safe as it can be, but even if it's just a piece of paper in your drawer, it's okay, right? And then you lose your hardware wallet, you buy another one, put the same seed phrase in, and you're back at, back operational, right? So These are all important things to consider, but I think what is most important to consider is what you can do and what people can do to scam people, right? So let's go to let me see if I have an account here. I just want to get back the account where I have some funds very quickly, which it may be this one. Oh, it's this one. Okay, let's do this. There we go, perfect. So now if we go on testnet OpenSea, all right. Okay, so we're using like testnet. We're not using like just just to make an example. So when you go to any application, right, like OpenSea or any website, when it says, this connect wallet, or AKA login, right, is asking you to connect, to sign something. So this one is the first step, right? Connecting. Connecting is normally not, let's say, like a problem. When you connect, you're not giving permission to do something yet. You're just saying, okay, this is me. I authenticate that this is my wallet, right? So when you connect, this is what a site can do to you. See your address, your public address, get your account balance, get your activity, and suggest transactions to approve. So this is the first step that we do with our crypto account. We want to give, our crypto account to be seen to this application. In this case, OpenSea is an application, right? And then I'm gonna just get, I'm gonna be ready if I need to do some other operations. OpenSea can give it to me, right? So now when I'm connected, it says now there is a different step, which is accept and sign, like sign. Signing is a different level of operation. I'm like starting to give a bit of permission more, right? Is it safe? 99% signing is safe. Basically, the main thing that signing does is that there is not a real transaction or cost, or gas fee. You don't need to have, you can just sign without spending any cryptocurrencies. Why you need to do this? Sometimes, application, they need to authenticate. And so this is similar to like put your password in, right? Without them knowing the password. Because how things works is that when you sign something with only you can sign it because you have the private key. So by signing it, you kind of give the confirmation that you actually that account, right? So signing, be careful what you sign, but it's a bit different, right? Then if we want to go to there must be something that we could buy. Okay, whatever this test is, let's see. And now we cannot buy it. Usually there was much more action in testnet. There is not much. But we can do something different. Bear with me one moment. Let's see how much we need. We can transfer some more girly. Perfect. All right, now we've got enough funds and we're gonna just try to, go buy an NFT. So right now, we should have free ETH, free testnet ETH. We're gonna just go and buy this NFT. Right. Perfect. And so we just buying this one, no? So now what is happening is that I'm actually signing a transaction, and this transaction has a cost. Not only a cost for purchase this NFT, which is like 2 testnet ETH, but is also, some gas, because everything that happens on the blockchain needs to have some gas cost, need to have some operational cost for it to be written into the blockchain. So these one are what are the most dangerous things that you can do. Why? Because I'm not sure exactly what function is doing. Let's say that Vision is a fake website. how can I know that this is the real OpenSea? Maybe it's a fake OpenSea. Like now when I'm going to click confirm, I don't know what it's going to actually do. So there is a few things we can do to check this. That is, for example, in here, there is a and a function that is being called, right? So then, for example, if I check this contract address, I can see it on what is called Etherscan or the blockchain explorer. And I can ensure that, for example, it is the correct, contract for this collection, for this Ray Azuki collection, right? And I want to check that this, is the right collection for OpenSea, that this is the right, you see, like Vision is the right Seaport contract, right? Vision is the right OpenSea contract that is gonna ensure that my purchase goes, through. So now I purchase this one, and I'm spending, a certain amount of girly to purchase the NFT, a certain amount of girly to do the operation on the blockchain. Perfect. Now that Vision is in my wallet, now I can do other things. For example, I could sell it, etc. Right? So list for sale. I'm gonna just say, that I want to like list it for the same to it. Complete the listing. So now this one is one of the most dangerous things that can happen and that you can always be aware of when you interact with any application, which is give permission to a smart contract to do something with your NFT. So instead of just clicking confirm, here we can say like, for me to sell this NFT or list this NFT, what I have to do is that I have to give this NFT to a smart contract, in this case, the OpenSea contract, so the OpenSea contract can sell it for me. So I need to give permission to transfer this NFT without my further notice, unless I revoke this permission. So these are the most dangerous things. When you have people that says my wallet got drained, is not because 99% their private key or their seed phrase was exposed, but because they gave permission to a malicious application to do something with their NFT. How does it work? Let's say that Vision, for example, and is saying mint this NFT, and then I have to approve. I actually maybe approve, my that my valuable are gonna be sold or gonna be transferred without my permission, and then in the next second, I have all my NFTs transferred out, all my valuable, let's say like generative art NFTs. But this is not because my private key or my seed phrase was compromised. It's just because I gave the permission, right? I mean, Vision is safe, it's just a normal operation. Vision is not a malicious website. But in general, like there is Vision are the operation, that gives us, potentially problem, right? Well, also maybe Vision is not even working, but it's a different story. Maybe I've listed it, maybe not. Yeah, it's fine, it's listed. So yeah, so every time you interact with an application or interact with any website, remember always that connecting is safe, signing is less safe, but normally safe. Confirming a transaction, you always want to make sure what you are confirming, and that is the website is the correct website and the contract is correct. For example, a very good friend of mine happened that she visited a website was exactly like art blocks. Even the URL was looking like artblock.io because they can use like different characters. For is another Unicode characters, but looks like an L, right, from a different alphabet. And he was saying, like connector, you have these other NFT, you can mint this friendship bracelet for free, which is something that was actually true. There was this friendship bracelet from Artblocks. And then she connected and she gave permission to transfer out some NFTs. And with that same permission, some of her NFT were transferred out, right? So these one are the things that we always need to be more careful and more aware when we are signing. And then you say, is using an hardware wallet going to prevent? Not really, because even using an hardware wallet, if you sign the transaction, if you confirm the transaction, then you're going to be exposed anyway. So the only thing that in that case the hardware wallet is going to do is to give you an extra layer of fee. Because you're going to have to type, yes, I want to do it. You're going to say, oh, I want to do it. Do I want to do this? So I give you like time to think. But apart from that, not. So that's why I was always saying, to increase your security, is always better to have like to use different wallets for different purposes. Like use a hot wallet to interact with things. If somebody is a scam website to transfer your NFT, but you don't have NFTs in there to transfer, the damage is minimal, right? If you have very minimal cryptocurrencies, just your operations, if it's a scam link, you're gonna lose very little, right? And when you have a cold wallet, what you do with the cold wallet, you store your NFTs, you store your cryptocurrencies, and you would only transfer in between these two wallets. So cold wallet send things to the hot wallet send things to the cold wallet, because you're transferring yourself between yourself. So you're always going to be safe, right? When, let's say like what is not going to be safe is, so no, don't do that, right? It may be a bit more costly because you spend a bit more, but it's going to be more secure. So this is, let's say like a good setup, like let's say you have an artwork that you like, you go mint it, and then, you say, perfect, I don't want to sell it. I'm going to send it into my vault, into my cold wallet. And then, I don't know, in 5 years time, you say, oh, very nice, but now I want to sell my NFT. You take it from your cold wallet, transfer it back. And now with your hot wallet, you go to a marketplace, and then you sell it. So you keep these things separated and a good level of security. And in the meantime, whatever happens, you want to keep your seed phrase safe, right? So whatever happens, you can always go back into your crypto. Because if you lose your cold wallet, if you lose anything, what you don't need to lose is your access, your key. And if you have your key, then everything is going to be fine. So I hope I didn't confuse you even more. I hope I was not too boring. Is there any other questions? Anything? Any doubts? Speak or type. Okay, Kay, is it possible to get scammed from a fake? Yes, it is possible. So normally, what you want to do, you don't want to interact with any tokens that are sent to you and you don't know about it. This is because you don't know interacting that contract which information you're gonna give. For example, let's go back to the OpenSea example. I think it's a good one and something that allows us to do things. So let's say that, for example, this Reazu. Now, if I have to list it for sale, what I had to do before, if you remember, was to set approval, was to give permission to the contract, because each NFT collection or each ERC20 coin or each, everything that is on the blockchain controlled by a smart contract, apart from Bitcoin, that is like the layer one blockchain, right? Or Ethereum, right? It is on a contract. If you see like this one, is normally collection, each NFT, each ERC20 token, they're identified with an address, which is the contract address. This contract, normally you can read it, sometimes you can't, but you need to know what's happening. There is certain functions, that we can read from the contract, like I don't know, like who's owning, certain NFT, how many NFT person have, blah blah blah, like the metadata, etc. Or I can write, like approve someone, mint an NFT, transfer an NFT, etc. So now if I send you a scam token, but when you give permission to transfer this token, also give permission for me to take, I don't know, another NFT with you or some Ethereum with this NFT without you knowing, right? I would not know because I gave you permission to transfer, right? So then I gave you permission, I transfer want it, and then I want to transfer it out, and then transferring out or burning it, I let's say like scam myself basically, because I don't know what this specific contract is doing. And I mean, it's not that you have to read the contract. Yeah, it's not that everybody has to know how to, but you just don't want to interact with things that you don't know, right? I hope this answers. Okay. And Coco is saying, as internet browsing continues to get more private in less world, do you see potential in token-gated commerce via digital wallet and NFTs for brands delivering personalized experiences? In other words, can digital asset become the blockchain solution to a cookieless internet? I mean, it could. I think right now the what is, let's say, like still too complicated, I think, is a user experience issue that there is with blockchain, and also the fact that you don't have a good way to communicate in both senses. So, for example, something that is normally happening in the cookie world or in the email world is that you can get notified, right, from things. Without that, it's much more difficult to get notified, unless you have a specific notification service within the blockchain. let's say, like, to be honest, I think we are gonna start soon using everybody gonna start soon using NFTs without knowing they are NFTs. Just like a lot of people are working on yeah, no, that's good, Inga. Thanks for yeah, I can carry on a bit more. If anybody has to go, is fine. But if someone has questions, I'm gonna just I have a bit more time to answer, which is fine. Yeah, so going back to the like token gate commerce and digital wallet, I think like it's more a UI UX issue right now. I think like there is certain things called wallet abstraction and other solutions which are much more user friendly, that are gonna enable people to use NFT based solution without them knowing it. So yeah, definitely. But we need a bit more work, not on the tech side, but on the UI side, because the tech is pretty much there. And going back to Cape. Yeah, Kay, is exactly like you said. Even if you accidentally buy me, say a fake Azuki, that token can compromise your wallet. Because, for example, it may not be a mint. It may be that while you're minting, you also do something else. And then it becomes anyway like a problem. I mean, most of the people get through scam mint, phishing links, swaps, things that are too good to be true. It's always like that. So it's a common practice to use normally only trusted platforms, bookmark the trusted platforms. I don't know, for example, you need to do like, uh, like DeFi operations, like just swap coins, convert any ERC20. Perfect. Okay, this one is the official Uniswap. Maybe like bookmark it. So then, like, is it the correct website? I can check it. Yes, there is the little star, I bookmarked it. Shall I use any other application to swap tokens? Maybe not. Maybe I'm gonna just use Uniswap because I know Uniswap is secure, right? I mean, it's good to use new products, but you want to use new products, not valuable items. There was a joke happening. Like a lot of people were just like joking about bored apes being like always stolen, right? Which was very unfortunate because they were very valuable some time ago, and a lot of people like have been scammed, right? And people, were having fun about it. But yeah, the most things that were happening to them was just like things too good to be true. For example, hey, like trade this NFT for this other NFT, or trade for this, and we use this new platform where we can just do this swap, and then of course there was no swap. People were just draining wallets or whatever. So use always trusted applications, and yeah, just ensure that. I mean, everything in this space, because of the financialization aspect, there was a lot of FOMO, a lot of things that, that they urge you to be quick and rush to do. Always retain to do things in a rush, especially if you don't have the proper OPSEC setup. Like if you mint with a wallet, the other day, or maybe it was last but yeah, Vitalik Twitter account was compromised, and he was saying mint this honorary NFT from right, which is like, and a lot of people they went and minted right with their wallet with valuable NFTs and their valuable, you know, they would have, and why? Because well, oh, I want to, you know, mint it before, you know, it's sold out, you know. But I mean, that rush is what triggers them, is what how they fall, you know. If they would have waited a bit more, hey, let me mint it with another wallet, which is a minting wallet where I don't have so many valuables items. I mean, it's so easy to create a wallet, to create an account, you know, like, look, I can just go here, add an account. Perfect. So this account doesn't have any valuables. I need to, I'm gonna take account 1, some money to account 2.02. Perfect. It's gonna be my minting money. I go to mint. In this account number 2, I'm gonna only, as soon as they arrives, because the blockchain takes time, I'm gonna have only the money needed for minting, no other NFTs. I go to it, I get scammed of 0.02. I'm not gonna be happy, of course, but it's better than being scammed for all my belongings in my first account, right? So how long did it take me? 30 seconds. Would the world end in those 30 seconds? Probably not, right? There is this FOMO mentality in over-financialized dynamic systems, but yeah, it's better to like retain from, yeah. So wage do is asking, sorry, probably explain, but do I have to pay gas? It's always better to say it twice if you don't understand. Actually, I don't think I mentioned it, so good question. Yes, everything on the blockchain have a gas cost. Every operation. Why? Because of how the blockchain works. You basically have blocks, right? Each block is like finalizing a series of transactions, which basically means these 52 transactions, each of these transactions is now written on the blockchain, right? So each of these transactions is unmodifiable, okay? The cost of doing any operation on the blockchain is what we call gas cost, because you need computer operation, power operation. But on a specific like if you use Ethereum as an example, most of other chains work similarly, is what's called gas cost, and is in unit, right? So this one, it says like 25,000 euros were needed to complete this operation. A more complex operation takes more gas. You can think about gas as literally like petrol, right? Like how much petrol do you need for going with your car from here to whatever, to, I don't know, like 1,000 miles, right? It's gonna need a certain amount of petrol. And then you have what is called gas price, which is how much did you pay that petrol, right? The only difference is that instead of filling up your tank with gas and then consume it, you just pay what you consume when you consume it. Yeah. So every operation on the blockchain has a gas cost, which is the gas limit. And how much do we pay is how much you consume for how much you pay. And how much you pay is normally based on how congested. So I'm not sure if on Girly there is, but on Etherscan, in here, where is the gas? There we go. So for example, right now the gas costs 20 units or 20 Gwei. If there is more people using the blockchain, if there is less people using the blockchain, less. If I want to go faster than you, I just pay more gas. I mean, I pay the gas price higher, so then, you know, people get more. So yeah, also to transfer between two accounts, it has a cost. And that's why actually it's very important to do what we call like gas and ensure, you know, that the gas is as little as possible. Yeah, fantastic. I hope I answered this as well. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so in general, if you have any other specific technical questions, anything that you want to also dig deep more, anything that you may want to, we can also, like, to be honest, if there is interest, I'm also happy to do another class before the cohort finish, in case there is the need or anything that you think like, oh, like this will be something useful. Or feel free, you know, to send me a message, reach me out here in Discord. My DMs should be open for the vertical server. Contact me at any time. We can book one-on-one, so you can just ask me questions. So feel free to do that. Because I mean, as we, everything seems much more complicated than it is, right? Like it's which is everything is pretty much more simple, right? But we just need to understand how things work. We understand how things, it's easier, right?
Thank you so much for the class. And if there is more interest for a second session, maybe like something that goes maybe a little bit more in depth or maybe into an area that wasn't covered today, could you guys please send it in the 7th cohort channel, and we'll just see how many people want an extra class, and we'll just arrange it afterwards. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the class. Thank you, Phil. And we'll see you on Thursday or later today for the open mic and the lounge tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Speak soon, guys. Ciao, ciao.